Arsenal to sign PSG superstar, Nico Williams, heads to Bayern, AMORIM'S first top transfer at Manchester United, Liverpool, snaps up, Real Madrid, midfielder. Today we'll talk about all this and much more. If this video gets 500 thumbs up, it'll give us the motivation to keep making new videos. So enjoy the show and let's get started. Joao Felix's story at Chelsea is turning into a soap opera with elements of drama. The guy, for whom Atletico once paid a fortune to get the new Cristiano, is now teetering on the edge between the bench and the exit door. Who would have thought that a £47 million transfer, signed with literal fanfare, could turn into a series of headaches? Enzo Maresca, like a skilled strategist, didn't put things off. The Chelsea boss is ready to meet with Felix and find out the main thing. Does the Portuguese want to stay and fight for a place under the London sun, or is he already packing his bags, looking for new pastures? And this is where it gets interesting. Felix seems unable to find his place. At Atletico, he was adored by the fans, but not the coach. Under Diego Simeone, he was like a square peg in a round hole, an attacking star who didn't fit into the defensive style of football. His move to Chelsea in the summer also looked like an attempt to escape from one system to another, but the result? 307 minutes in the Premier League, 7 appearances off the bench. That's not even the level of a promising newcomer, but rather a player who has forgotten that he's worth almost £50 million. But let's dig deeper. Why can't Joao restart his career? Perhaps the problem isn't just him. The Premier League is not La Liga. Here, you have to fight tooth and nail for every minute. Joao is a talent, that's obvious, but his style is more about finesse, elegance, and not about battling in the mud. And if in London they expect real bone-crushing work from him on the field, then shouldn't we ask ourselves, is this the right club to unlock his strengths? The situation is getting even hotter. Chelsea is not currently a club that can afford the luxury of keeping players on the bench with a salary of £170,000 a week, especially when the team is trying to patch up holes and find balance in their game. Maresca certainly sees potential in Felix, but how much time is he willing to give the Portuguese? And most importantly, is Felix himself ready to wait? On the other hand, Chelsea also needs to think. Why keep a player if he's not happy? Today's market is brutal. No club will pay that kind of money for a player who hasn't even accumulated 50 decent minutes on the field in the last 6 months. Selling him for a reasonable sum will be difficult, but keeping him in the team if he doesn't want to fight is a risk of not justifying the investment. So, what's next? Maresca seems to be giving Felix a chance in the matches against Fulham and Ipswich, but will that be enough to restore his motivation? Or is Joao already mentally at another club, where he will once again be called the savior of the attack? Let's be honest, Felix now resembles a Ferrari in a garage where the mechanics don't know how to start the engine. What do you think? Should Chelsea take a risk and give Felix a chance to stay? Or is it better to sell him and invest the money in a player who is ready to work hard and prove his worth? Write in the comments who, in your opinion, could become the new main star at Chelsea. As for Felix, perhaps it's time for him to look for a place where he will once again be the main character and not a supporting actor. It seems that Kylian Mbappe has finally found his footing at Real Madrid. Just a few weeks ago, he was teetering on the edge of a precipice, a fall from which not everyone recovers. It's hard to believe, but what broke the Frenchman was not only the transition to a new league, but also his own attitude, as if he had moved to Madrid in tourist mode. Lackluster play, questionable motivation, and then the penalty miss against Athletic Bilbao, where Kylian shot so hopelessly it seemed like his first time ever at the spot. That fail instantly became a symbol of his downfall. Can you imagine the shadow this cast over Mbappe's reputation? Some even began to whisper maybe they shouldn't have signed a player who ultimately proved unprepared for the pressure of the royal club. The rumours reached the most important man at Real Madrid, Florentino Perez. They say the president decided to act immediately and called Kylian in for a serious talk. Details leaked to the press. Perez didn't mince words, reminding the forward that weakness is not forgiven at Real Madrid and demanding proof that the immense faith in Mbappe and the considerable investment would be justified. You might also be wondering, why did only harsh words work in the end? It seems that's when Kylian realized the scale of his opportunity. Either he rises to the top or becomes another bright but short-lived star. The forward promised Perez, "No one will regret signing me." From that moment on, our hero seemed reborn. Suddenly, from being a hostage to his own fears, he transformed into a machine, capable of scoring and providing assists practically on autopilot. And the statistics, 12 goals and 2 assists in 16 La Liga games, now look not like a coincidence, but a logical result. So, was the whole sleeping giant a matter of psychology? Carlo Ancelotti, with relief, acknowledged Mbappe's adaptation period is over. Kylian himself confirmed that he is now giving his all, whereas before, it seems, he allowed himself to play at half strength. What irony! One of the most talented footballers in the world periodically wasn't giving his maximum. But today, now that he's found his form, there's no trace of that sluggishness on the field. He's stopped disappearing at the first sign of difficulty and has become more assertive in the penalty area. So what changed drastically? Perhaps the Frenchman was switched on by the realization that Real Madrid is not just an elite club, but a club where a penalty miss can cost not only points, but also trust. Yes, according to Rumours, a couple of weeks ago, near the offices at the Santiago Bernabeu, there were serious conversations. If the guy can't handle it, we need to part ways. But fortunately, they decided not to take drastic measures. And Perez, imagining himself the savior of a drowning talent, didn't miss the mark. A direct conversation with elements of tough guidance worked better than any motivational speech. However, it's only the middle of the season, and it's too early to draw any conclusions. How long will Mbappe's current drive last? If he suddenly slows down again in the upcoming matches, the critics will immediately recall all his misses. But perhaps the forward has learned an invaluable lesson. At Real Madrid, a second failure is not forgiven. Who knows, maybe this shakeup will produce a new leader who will rewrite the club's history. Or maybe he'll get tired of the pressure, get offended by the local newspapers, and move to another league. Think about it. What will prevail in Kylian, his stubborn will to succeed, or the doubts that could once again poison his confidence on the field? Look for the answers in the upcoming games, where there is a high risk of relapse. Let's not forget, conversations with Perez are a double-edged sword. If Kylian doesn't justify this new trust, he certainly won't get a second chance from the president. And then, the romance between Mbappe and Madrid could end as quickly as it began. What do you think, friends? Will the Frenchman be able to prove to everyone that he is firmly established in the Galacticos, or will his inner demons sooner or later trip him up again? So, Rossoneri had enough of this yet? Fonseca, they say, isn't cutting it. 8th place, a gap to the league leader as vast as walking from the moon to Milan, and a 5-point chasm to the coveted European spots, a chasm that now feels utterly insurmountable. And this is Milan, a club with history, with ambition, not some mid-table team aimlessly floating in the swamp of mediocrity. To be honest, I had serious doubts about that Portuguese guy from the very moment he was appointed. Not that he's completely incompetent, no, he's just uninspiring. A functional coach, if you will. No spark, no charisma, none of that essential madness you sometimes need to ignite a team, to pull it out of a psychological pit. Remember Gattuso? Not always the most tactically sophisticated, but what fire in his eyes. And now, bland, lifeless water. And the results, as they say, are on the scoreboard. Though, to be fair, even Pioli seemed to have lost his edge recently. But his sacking, that's a whole different story. It's still unclear who he crossed paths with to get shown the door. After all, there was the Scudetto. They made some noise in the Champions League, but apparently, the Milan boss's appetites are growing faster than the results on the pitch. And now we're served a fresh batch of rumours. Mancini, Allegri, Sarri, the old Serie A guard, so to speak. Each of them comes with their own baggage of successes and failures. Mancini, sure, he's experienced and stable, but won't Milan become too pragmatic, too Italian in the worst sense of the word under him? Allegri, the return of the prodigal son. On one hand, he knows how to win in Italy, but on the other, his last stint at Juventus was, to put it mildly, underwhelming. Sarri and his Sarri ball is always an intriguing option. But does the current Milan squad have the intelligence and skill to bring his ideas to life? Honestly, I doubt it. But the Xavi option, that's something new, something with a bit of spice. Yes, his time at Barcelona wasn't all smooth sailing, and the criticism he faced was considerable. But let's be honest, there's such a mess at that club right now that you wouldn't envy any coach. And yet, he started off decently enough, brought in young talent, tried to establish some kind of playing style. Then there was all that drama about whether he was staying or leaving, Laporta alternately pleading with him and trying to push him out. And those comments about the management, he's a hot-headed guy. no doubt about it. But maybe that's exactly what Milan needs right now. A shake-up, a fresh perspective, unclouded by the usual Italian clichés. Plus, he knows how to work with young players, and Milan has plenty of those. There's talent to develop, players to unleash. Sure, betting on a Spaniard is a risk, but sometimes you have to take risks to hit the jackpot. Or are we running a daycare center here? In short, the situation is like that old joke. It's both funny and sad. On one hand, you want to finally see some stability. On the other, it's impossible to watch this toothless Milan without tearing up. So, what do you think? Who could realistically pull the Rossoneri out of this swamp? Maybe we should be looking at some young, hungry-to-win coach instead of cycling through these has-beens. Or is experience still the top priority? Bayern Munich seems to have set its sights on shaking up their attacking arsenal, and they've got their eye on Nico Williams. The athletic Bilbao winger, who was just a step away from joining Barcelona not too long ago, has now become a top target for company. But here's the question: can Bayern pull off this move, or will Barca step up for round 2 in the battle for the Spaniard? Let's start with the main point. Why does Bayern even need Williams? The answer is simple. Their wings are starting to lose their spark. Leroy Sané, Gnabry, Coman, big names, but their performances haven't been as bright as one might hope. And it seems that Bayern is well aware of this. Sané and Coman are reportedly close to seeking opportunities in Saudi Arabia or other exotic leagues. As for Gnabry, well, anyone who's watched his recent games knows that consistency isn't exactly his strong suit. Nico Williams, on the other hand, could bring fresh blood to the German machine. Quick, technical, tenacious, an ideal player for company style. Plus, he's just 21 years old, the perfect age to shine at the highest level. And then there's the release clause in his contract, 60 million euros. For Bayern, that's not exactly pocket change, but it's a manageable sum, especially considering Transfermarkt values him at 70 million euros. All in all, it's an offer that's hard to refuse, at least for athletic Bilbao. But here's the interesting part. This season, Nico hasn't been as dazzling as he was last year. The question is this just a slump or a sign that he's hit his ceiling in La Liga? Company seems to believe it's just a temporary setback. And a move to Munich could be the trampoline Williams needs. And you know what? That logic makes sense. Now about Barcelona. Just this summer, they were one step away from signing Nico. But at the last moment, the player decided to stay in Bilbao. Some called it a mature decision by a footballer who wanted to finish the season at the club where he was raised. Others saw it as a mistake. His brother even claimed that Nico didn't regret his choice one bit. Sure, if you say so. But here's the funny thing. Barca is still hoping to reel him in. The Catalans see him not just as a player, but as a strategic reinforcement. They believe the young Spaniard could become a key figure in their attacking lineup. The problem, Barcelona's financial issues haven't gone away. While Bayern can afford to pay the 60 million euro release clause, Barca would have to work hard to come up with the money. Most likely, that would mean selling one of their key players. But the question is, who would want to leave Barca right now? On paper, Bayern has the upper hand. The Germans can offer Williams stability, a high salary, and most importantly, a guaranteed spot in the starting lineup. Competition for wing positions at Barcelona is much tougher, especially with players like Rafinha and Lamine Yamal already in the mix. Where would Nico even fit in? But there's one big if. Barcelona is a dream for any Spanish player. For many footballers in La Liga, joining Barca is the pinnacle of their careers. And if the Catalans can somehow find the money, Williams might just change his mind. After all, Barca has a trump card. Its style, its history, its charisma. And while we're talking about Bayern and Barca, let's not forget about Manchester United. The English club is also reportedly interested in Williams and is rumoured to be ready to activate his release clause. But here's the catch. United doesn't look like a team that can attract a top player right now. Sure, they have the money, but in terms of prospects and stability, they're clearly behind Bayern. In this race, the Red Devils feel more like a backup option than serious contenders. So, where does that leave us? Williams is a hot commodity for several top clubs. Bayern is going all in, Barca isn't giving up, and United is trying to elbow its way into the fight. Who will win? It's still too early to say. But one thing is certain. If he joins Bayern, he could become a central figure in Kompany's rebuild. If he chooses Barca, he'll be nurtured under Hansi Flick, who sees him as the future of Catalan football. And if he decides to go to United, well, that's a whole different story. Christmas fairy tale turned into a harsh reality show for Manchester City. While normal people were celebrating the holiday, Pep Guardiola's squad, excuse my French, are working their butts off at the training ground. And it's not because they're workaholics. The citizens royally screwed up the second quarter of the season, even managing to drop out of the Champions League zone. The team crumbled like a house of cards in a draft. So, Guardiola decided it was time to tighten the screws. Instead of cozy family gatherings, it's training, training, and more training. Christmas? Forget it. We train on Wednesday, then stay at the base, and after that, we play, Pep said, quoted by everyone and their dog. Long story short, it's football slavery in the finest traditions of modern sports. Understandably, not all City stars are thrilled with this setup. Imagine, instead of gifts under the tree, grueling physical drills and tactical debriefings. Many of them have families, kids, but as they say, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Lost confidence, lost chemistry, and let's be honest, they're not running as hard as they should. Well, actions have consequences. Those millions in wages aren't just for flexing on Instagram. And don't even think about pushing back. Say one word against Pep and it's pack your bags, train station, Saudi Arabia. A joke, of course, but with a hint of truth. Guardiola clearly isn't in the mood for jokes right now. He wants results, not Christmas carols. So, like it or not, the players will have to want to be here, as the coach himself put it. It's their job, he added. Sure, it's a job, but why is it that most people still get Christmas off? The situation is, to put it mildly, unusual. 9 losses in 12 matches. That's not a minor slump. It's the worst run in Guardiola's career. A team that was steamrolling everyone not long ago is now hovering near the bottom of the table if you look at results since October. Holy moly, this is a catastrophe. And what's even more interesting, no Christmas break, which some players might have been hoping for to catch their breath and reset. Instead, the Etihad campus has turned into an impromptu, high-security hotel. To be fair, it's a state-of-the-art hotel, 80 bedrooms with wallpaper that enhances sleep and mattresses with pillows worth £150,000. Living the dream, right? Just not the dream the star players envisioned on Christmas Eve. What is this? Panic? A stroke of genius? Or senility spiced with Catalan stubbornness? Hard to say. Guardiola has always been known for his unorthodox decisions, and they've often paid off, but this situation feels overly dramatic. Essentially, Pep's squad has become prisoners of the Etihad campus. The real question is, how long can they withstand this pressure, and won't it lead to even more division within the team? Would you want to spend Christmas with colleagues, even millionaire ones, instead of family? Yeah, didn't think so. Anyway, we'll keep watching how this saga unfolds. Bukayo Saka is in the medical room, Raheem Sterling is injured, and Arsenal faces a mountain of fixtures on 2 fronts. Who's going to cover the right flank? Is it even fair for one team to have so much bad luck? And now, the name Randal Kolo Muani pops up. Paris Saint-Germain is reportedly ready to loan out their forward. But here's where the questions begin. Could Arteta really find salvation in this French striker? Kolo Muani is clearly not a favourite of Luis Enrique. Over the entire season, he's played just 453 minutes. That's not even half a season's worth of game time for a regular player. What went wrong? Is it the tactics? Maybe the Frenchman doesn't fit the coach's vision. Or perhaps Enrique simply prefers others. Who knows? But the fact remains, Randall is ready to pack his bags, and this could be Arsenal's chance. After all, he can play both on the wing and as a central striker. The perfect utility player? Well, almost. The injuries to Saka and Sterling are catastrophic. Bukayo, like an engine, was driving the team forward, and his absence is immediately felt. And Sterling? His move to Arsenal was questioned from the start, and now a knee injury has made things even worse. That's why Arteta, it seems, isn't just glancing in Kolo Muani's direction. He may already be taking the first steps. Paris Saint-Germain clearly doesn't see Kolo Muani as a star. Just a year ago, they paid €95 million for him, a staggering sum, and now they're reportedly ready to loan him out with an option to buy for just £50 million. How does that even make sense? Has the player's world-class status depreciated in just a year? Or is this part of some strategy? Kolo Muani at Arsenal is a gamble. Yes, he's got pace, technique, and the ability to exploit space, but can he handle the pressure of the Premier League? More importantly, can he withstand the criticism from fans? The Emirates is not forgiving of weaknesses. On the other hand, what does Arsenal have to lose? There's simply no time to hesitate. The January transfer window is around the corner, and the fixture schedule is relentless. What makes the situation even more intriguing is the potential competition Kolo Muani would face with Havertz and Jesus. The German has struggled to find his footing in a new role, and Jesus is too often sidelined with injuries. Maybe fresh blood in the form of Randall is exactly what the team needs. He has a chance to become a hero, but to do that, he'll need to hit the ground running and perform at the highest level from day one. How do you feel about the prospect of seeing Kolo Muani in Arsenal's red and white? On paper, it looks ideal. In practice, it's full of uncertainties. But isn't that the essence of football transfers? Every signing is like buying a lottery ticket. Sometimes you win big, other times you walk away empty-handed. Arsenal has made some successful bets recently, but does Arteta have the courage to take another one? And here we come to the big question. Will Randall be the player to fill all the gaps in Arsenal's attack? Or is this just a temporary fix? Either way, the winter transfer window promises to be exciting. If Arsenal is truly serious about signing Kolo Muani, all we can do is wait for the outcome. In the meantime, share your thoughts on this potential transfer in the comments. Hero or another flop? A rhetorical question, isn't it? Alright, drumroll please. The transfer circus in Manchester continues. The media are reporting that United are ready to splash out nearly $250 million on new players. Money to burn, but no brains to learn, as they say. Apparently, Amorim, the newly appointed Red Devils boss, has decided to go all in and has requested reinforcements across the board. The wish list includes Rafinha, Victor Gyökeres and Borussia Dortmund's goalkeeper, Gregor Kobel. Here we go again. You can't help but exclaim. Gyökeres has been a long-standing headache for Amorim. It seems like he's been chasing him since the first day of his appointment. But the question is, does Victor himself really want this dubious honour? The guy's surely not blind. He can see what kind of football Manchester United is currently playing. Huff and hope, bash and crash. No progress, not a hint of tactical thought. Whether it's Ten Hag or Amorim, it's the same old story, as they say. And considering that half of Europe is hunting for Gyökeres, he can easily choose a more interesting team, where football isn't reduced to chaotic raids on the opponent's goal. Rafinha is a different story. The guy's on fire right now, and Barca are clearly not keen on letting him go. Although, oops! Here we remember the Catalans' financial problems. There are plenty of holes in the budget and a whole heap of contracts to renew. So if United really loosen their purse strings, Laporta might just waver. But don't count on a discount. Barca will squeeze every last euro cent out of the deal. And the goalkeeping position is, as they say, a sore spot. Onana, to put it mildly, hasn't been impressive. He was a wall at Inter, but in Manchester, boom, and the ball's in the net. However, he's not the only one who's regressed in the new environment. The atmosphere in the team, to put it mildly, leaves a lot to be desired. But be that as it may, a decent backup for Onana certainly wouldn't hurt. It looks like we're in for another rebuild at Manchester United. Amorim seems determined to get rid of Ten Hag's legacy and bring in his own players. What could possibly go wrong, as they say? And this is starting to look like a vicious circle. It feels like United's management learns from its mistakes like a cat in boots. They're just treading water, that's all. Surely they could have given Amorim a chance to work with the existing squad at least until the end of the season. To assess his work, understand what's missing, and only then make decisions about transfers. After all, a good coach, if he's a true professional, should be able to work with what he has, to squeeze the maximum out of the available resources. Has Amorim squeezed that maximum? The answer is obvious. There are problems at MU, of course, but it's not so bad that they're getting thrashed 0-3 at home by Bournemouth. Amorim hasn't proven himself yet. Why give him a ton of money for transfers now, just to sack him later, like Ten Hag, and leave a mess for the new coach? This squad is perfectly capable of securing a European spot. So if Amorim manages to get them there by the end of the season, then give him the green light for transfers. That would be somewhat justified. Okay, you could understand if it was some superstar coach who had already proven everything to everyone. You could give such a person carte blanche right away. But who is Amorim? A dark horse. With Portuguese coaches, as with players, they're stars at home, but often deflate outside their native league. So far, it's the same story with Ruben. Of course, we believe in him, but giving him the chance to rebuild the team now is the height of recklessness. Let him show results with what he has first. I repeat, Man United's squad isn't so dead that they should be languishing in the bottom half of the table. The management keeps stepping on the same rake over and over again. So, folks, write in the comments what you think about this. Does Amorim deserve a transfer war chest now, or should they wait until the end of the season? The Merseysiders are aiming high once again. This time, they have their sights set on Aurélien Tchouameni, who hasn't quite found his footing at Real Madrid. An intriguing move? You bet! When Tchouameni signed with Real Madrid, it seemed like a match made in heaven. Young, talented, versatile, he was supposed to be the new engine of Carlo Ancelotti's team. But, as they say, it looked good on paper. In reality, Tchouameni has been more of a bench warmer than a starter. And although he's been trying to prove his worth in recent months, criticism from the fans is growing louder. Real Madrid is a club where you're either a star or you're out. And right now, Aurélien is somewhere in between. Liverpool, currently leading the Premier League, see Tchouameni as the key to strengthening their midfield. Yes, they already have McAllister, Szoboszlai and company, but adding a versatile player who can play both as a defensive midfielder and a covering defender is a masterstroke of squad building. Especially when we're talking about a club that wants to dominate both England and Europe simultaneously. But let's return to Real Madrid. Why are they willing to part with Tchouameni? Firstly, it's £83 million. That's the price tag Transfermarkt puts on the Frenchman. And for a club that loves to spend, a profitable sale is a chance to pave the way for new transfers. Secondly, Ancelotti seems to have failed to find the ideal position for Aurélien. Sometimes he plays in the centre, sometimes he's tried on the flank of the defence. The result? Instability. And who likes unstable players? That's right, nobody. And here's the question. Will Tchouameni repeat the same scenario at Liverpool? Yes, the Premier League offers more freedom than La Liga, but the Merseysiders are also a club with huge expectations. There's no room for error. However, Arne Slot has already given the green light to the deal. Does he know something that Ancelotti doesn't? Possibly. Or is it just a bold bet on potential? It's also interesting how the transfer could affect both clubs. For Liverpool, it's an opportunity to further strengthen their squad and show that they're ready to compete with Manchester City and the other giants on all fronts. For Real Madrid, it's a chance to get rid of a headache and perhaps make way for a new generation of midfielders. But the more you look at this deal, the more questions arise. What if Tchouameni simply isn't cut out for playing at the highest level? What if he's not a star, but just a good player? The transfer window is approaching, and Liverpool has a chance to make a big move. Whether it will be successful is another question. But one thing is for sure. This transfer could either be the best decision of the winter or a monumental mistake. Do you think Aurélien will shine at Anfield, or will he become a bench hero once again? We're waiting for your comments.